Alright, so right now we're going to go over author's style in 3 different examples. I've got Ezra Klein, Kara Swisher, and Ta-Nehisi Coates. So we're going to look at these 3 authors and try to decide what their style is by describing it in action. So this is an excerpt from Ezra Klein's America is Changing and So is the Media. For all 3 of these excerpts, I have the full version available for you to annotate yourself, depending on which one of these speaks to you the most. We're going to go through all 3 of these in excerpts, and then once I'm done going over the style, you will get to choose the full version and decide which one you want to annotate in full. Okay, and as always, we'll be creating a checklist as a class. This time we're talking about what does a good persuasive writer do? So Ezra Klein, he is a popular writer for NPR, and he is one of the top journalists / opinion essayists in America. So America is changing and so is the media. Right off the bat, I find this title to be exclusively persuasive. The question we have for these readings is, what do you notice about their voice, how they argue, their style, how are they deciding to argue their points? So America is changing and so is the media. I find this to be very in your face, opinionated right off the bat. So in your face. He knows his opinion right off the bat. Okay. And I get the feeling that he's going to explain why. There have always been boundaries around acceptable discourse. And I know discourse is a word that means conversation, especially conversation on a specific topic. There have always been boundaries around acceptable discourse. And the media has always been involved in a complex and often unacknowledged way in both enforcing and contesting them. So I like how he creates a binary right away, which is A and B, this versus that. I'm going to say that. In 1986, the media historian Daniel Hallen argued that journalists treat ideas as belonging to 3 spheres, each of which is governed by different rules of coverage. There's the sphere of consensus, in which agreement is assumed. There's the sphere of deviance, in which a view is considered universally repugnant, which I know repugnant means disgusting. And it need not be entertained. And then, in the middle, is the sphere of legitimate controversy. So legitimate meaning deserving of its status or authentic. Wherein journalists are expected to cover all sides, and op-ed pages to represent all points of view. Those boundaries, thankfully, change over time. In 1939, the ideas in I Married a Jew were in the sphere of legitimate controversy. In 2020, they're firmly in the sphere of deviance. Those boundaries are changing again now. The difference is that the change and the conversation behind it is playing out in public. Okay, so from what I can see of Ezra's style so far, is to set the stage by showing automatically the 2 sides of the story. In every category, he pits one thing against another. He is building up to his own side. Okay, now I'm going to go on to Kara Swisher. So, Kara Swisher. Tech is about power, and these four moguls have too much of it. So I know mogul means kind of like someone who has been successful in business. Okay. It was, how shall we say, awkward, with Mr. Carlson looking peeved to be tweaked by a colleague. And so Mr. Hannity soon did a semi-about-face on Twitter. I apologize for any misunderstanding to Tucker and the Fox audience. I support freedom and capitalism, he wrote, not people taking advantage of a pandemic. If I see such evidence, I will obviously condemn it. Obviously. But aside from the odd sight of a couple of rich guys sitting around judging a really rich guy, their joint fascination with the money, and so much money, was a shiny object we all need to stop looking at. The wealth is extraordinarily distracting, and in fact, I wrote earlier this year that I thought the tech leaders would be richer than ever post-pandemic because their businesses had the heft and products to thrive in a crisis. So heft is like clout, basically. But a focus on the wealth also obscures the unprecedented accumulation of power by tech giants and the lack of any significant regulation or incentives for real accountability. They are always going to be very rich, so get used to it, but they don't necessarily have to be as powerful if we act now. So what I notice about Kara so far is her tone, as in the words she uses and the attitude behind what she writes, is very casual, very slang. But then later she builds up to being more professional, more biting in what she's saying. Okay, let's go down to Ta-Nehisi Coates, one of my favorite authors. Okay, Ta-Nehisi Coates. I'm not black, I'm Kanye. Ooh, I'm automatically wondering what he's talking about because Kanye West, by every definition, is black. So what does he mean? Okay. Michael Jackson might have been dying to be white, but he was not dying alone. There were the rest of us out there, born as he was, in the muck of this country, born in the bottom. We knew that we were tied to him, that his physical destruction was our physical destruction, because if the black god who made the zombies dance, who brokered great wars, who transformed stone to light, if he could not be beautiful in his own eyes, then what hope did we have, mortals, children, of ever escaping what they had taught us, of ever escaping what they said about our mouths, about our hair and our skin? What hope did we ever have of escaping the muck? So I noticed right away that he sort of has this poetic way of talking. He references things a lot. So he's referencing some Michael Jackson songs that I know of. Most of all, I know Who Made the Zombies Dance. That is the song Thriller by Michael Jackson. And what he's referencing with Michael Jackson dying to be white, he's talking about how Michael Jackson took medication and used ointment in order to bleach his skin to look more white. Because if you look at older pictures of Michael Jackson, he's much darker. You look at newer pictures of Michael Jackson, more recent, from right before he died, he looked white. A lot of his family and representatives claimed that he had a disease called vitiligo that caused him to lighten over time. But there's actually confirmed cases of doctors prescribing him the skin bleach. So, you be the judge. So I think what Ta-Nehisi Coates is trying to say is, if even the god of black people when he was growing up, Michael Jackson, this most popular black person, was not happy about his black skin, then what was to be said for the rest of us, the normal black people, according to him? He grew up very normal. So, what I noticed right away about his style is he's not afraid to go for the poetic, the metaphorical. He's not afraid to make these very grand, sweeping comments on things and reference pop culture to get his point across. So, 3 writers with persuasive pieces and 3 very distinct senses of style. What I want you to do now is you're going to go to your notebook and you're going to go to the content library section in Unit 0 and find, I have the 3 mentor texts here. I have the complete texts. So I have Ta-Nehisi Coates' I'm Not Black, I'm Kanye. I have Ezra Klein's America is Changing and So Is the Media. And I have Kara Swisher, Tech is About Power, and These 4 Moguls Have Too Much of It. So what each of these has is a question. What do good argumentative writers do? Make a bullet point list and identify parts of the text that led you to make that list. So just like we've done before with what do good readers do and what do good active listeners do, you're going to make a list all about what good persuasive argumentative writers do. What are they doing in these pieces that makes them experts at persuasion? Remember, we are reading this as a mentor text, which means it's an example to us of how we should write our persuasive pieces. So you need to read like a writer, not like a reader. And what I mean by that is you need to pay attention to their writing techniques and not just enjoy the content of what you're reading. So, happy reading, happy annotating, and we'll talk in class. Make sure you check back later if you are working on this asynchronously to see what list the class comes up with for persuasive writing before next lesson. See you later.